Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1545 of our daily content grind. It's been a big day for the whales of the Transformer community as we got to take a look at the brand new item being released by everybody's favorite rich kid toy company, Robosen. So, no surprise that after producing years worth of the most popular Transformer characters in their self-transforming, completely motorized toy line, no shock that Soundwave would be next. There's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of reasons why. Aside from popularity, first and foremost is also the fact that, let's admit, there's never been such a thing as a complex Soundwave. Getting him into a cassette player mode is turning a bunch of blocks into one block. He's never exactly been an engineering challenge. So yeah, when you take that into account, yeah, you could absolutely see how it works with just a bunch of servo motors. And Robosen agreed. So it's a pretty smart bet. It's a pretty smart bet for this expensive toy line. So we're going to be taking a look at it today, all the deep dive into all of the little things that they announced. We'll be taking a look at the whole piece in general and a few things that we have noticed and a few thoughts about this in the first place. So we will begin by just looking over the figure. And you know what? I'm going to say this. This is definitely one of the best sound waves we've ever gotten. As far as visual appeal, this is one of the best looking sound waves I have ever personally seen. It is an exceptionally nice rendition of the character. And the weird thing is, I would even mark that above the masterpiece, if that can be believed. Mainly because of, well, there's a few reasons why they get away with this. Number one is the fact that that hip skirt is obstructing how his legs are engineered, whereas the Masterpiece toy very obviously had those big Energon hips that hung out underneath the skirt and are very distracting, and I do not like how they look. They took advantage of the design here to work the figure in a way that kind of obfuscates a lot of the Robosen visuals that usually plague these toys. You know, the hips are always very obvious in how they work and just overall function. So kind of cool idea. It does lead to a pretty clean looking Soundwave. I think the other reason is because this Soundwave has, to this point that we can see, no need to size itself for any future cassette toys that it might include. So you also get that as an advantage. They don't have to make it look dead exact because it doesn't have to do the typical Soundwave stuff. So yeah, you get a really nice looking Soundwave out of it. And seems decently posable too. It's got good range. All the Robosen seem to have a fairly good range of motion considering what they have to do. Keep in mind, the way Robosens work, you're not going to be posing this thing like an actual action figure. There's no way to manually manipulate the toy. So you're up to whatever the programming wants you to do. But still, looks good overall. I mean, all the detail is there. The paint and the colors are all in the right spot. You know, they didn't go like excessive. They went accurate. You know, they didn't try to reinvent the character in any way. They just try to present, you know, a cartoon looking Soundwave. And yeah, they did a pretty good job on that. If we look at the backside, it's about the only place where they get just a little bit creative with extra engineering. And that's to say very, very little. There's some extra techno detail in the back, a little bit of extra tech dribble just to make it look like there's a little bit more going on design-wise to him. And he gives you a little bit new to look at, but, you know, obviously you're not going to be looking at the backside of this toy most of the time. Frankly, because these toys tend to just kind of slump over when they're in robot mode without power, you're probably going to see this guy in his tape recorder mode more often than not. Not a big surprise. So a lot of this detail is probably very rarely seen. You know, if you have him in robot mode, he's going to be propped up on a 3D printed stand or something. Which does remind me, Robosen does do these like powered stands that keep them like plugged in and up and online. Don't do that. You're going to wear out the toy's electronics with power constantly running through them. Just 3D print a little stand that just holds them up like a marionette. But still, honestly, visually, no real complaints here. It's missing a lot of the usual like crudeness and jank that the Robosen style of toy tends to lean these towards. What they do mechanically is fascinating. It's absolutely incredible how they manage to engineer these things. The drawback is always the visual is not always quite there. There's always some kind of thing, distraction of like, these details are wrong, this does not look right, these hips are floating, etc. All for the sake of making the transformation gimmickry work. So, yeah, this avoids most of that. And it makes it exceptionally nice looking. And like I said, I would even say that above the Masterpiece toy. Let us look at the tape recorder mode. Now, this one, again, you can't really get this wrong. It's a blue and gray block. As long as it's turning into a blue and gray block, you probably got it to look correct. Like, even details you wouldn't think would be correct at first, like the mismatched blue on the front, that is actually correct. I even double-checked this with vintage G1 Soundwave toys. That is how that's supposed to look. Maybe not entirely cartoon accurate, but we can get away with a little bit of toy accuracy here as well. I think this is also the mode that demonstrates that they really weren't thinking about cassettes when they put this design together. Obviously, the cassette, the tape deck door is much smaller than it usually is on a Soundwave. It's taking up a lot less space, almost to the degree of like a titanium Soundwave, just, properly proportioned. It's just one thing to keep in mind, and it's a nice looking piece overall. We'll get into the sound functions here. I might as well get into it now. My slides are a little out of order. I was going to do all the electronic features all at once. We'll go ahead and do this now because I goofed on the slides. So this is also a Bluetooth speaker. The drawback to the fact that Soundwave is a very simple design. If you watch the video, we'll get to that a bit. Transforming him is not very interesting. So I'm glad they decided to throw extra stuff in. So the fun parts are, it's full Bluetooth speaker. You can run whatever you want when it's attached to a smartphone. So if you wanted to play G1 music, it can. If you wanted to play actual Soundwave recorded lines from the cartoon, you can have him do that. If you want him to scream profanities like certain TikTokers do with all of these, you can do that as well, I guess. I can never begin to afford any one of these Robosen toys, and then this guy is just literally throwing them off his kitchen table for the sake of a TikTok. It irks me. It irks me a lot. I hope that guy is making bank, because he's got to be replacing these more than once. But no, it's cool that it has the Bluetooth speaker function. Obviously on a video, all the sound was simulated, so we can't hear the quality of it, but you can also control the app from the Soundwave as well, which is cool. It also has a recording feature. You can make it record sound, which means you can actually use this as a spy device of sorts, or just have Soundwave play back the audio or the whatever you just spoke in the room. Kind of a fun little gag. Very, very accurate to how he normally works. So that's cool. I like that they threw that in. Like I said, mechanically, it's going to be a lot more simple than, say, Grimlock or Optimus. So I'm thrilled that they threw in something to kind of compensate for that. There's one thing to point out with the tape deck mode. No matter what you saw, if you watched the video or their production stills, whatever, the one thing you did not see was the backside of the tape recorder mode. Because guess what? That's all junk back there. The one thing with Soundwaves is the backside of the tape recorder always kind of gives away just how simple Soundwave is. It is usually just his arms folded back there. Maybe his weapons are plugged in. In this case, his hands do not fold away into his forearms completely. They just kind of fold into 90-degree angles. And they are basically the platforms it picks itself up on in order to transform. So it doesn't look great from the rear. It can't look great from the rear based on how it transforms. So this is a little bit of an oddity. Just something I noticed is that they were intentionally avoiding showing the backside of the Soundwave. But if you've turned a Soundwave around in the last 20 years, you'll pretty much see where the problem lies. And here's where another problem lies. So you can see that there is a gap inside the actual tape deck. And it does imply that there are some kind of cassette toys on the way. Now, it doesn't look like full-size cassettes could fit in there. It doesn't look like, like obviously, like it's just a small gap. There's bumpers around the sides. It's not very deep. My expectation would be maybe this is big enough so that like G1 cassettes could store inside, just but vertically, like or like the long way instead of like width-wise, like you would normally do. That seems to be like the only thing I can imagine fitting into that groove. But that said, they kind of teased the fact that these would have like cassettes in the future. Problem is, they did it through silhouette. And the silhouettes were a little bit revealing. So that is a masterpiece Laserbeak. So there is that. And later on, there be a Rumble that was actually the Generations core class figure. But that. So in the middle, that is not Ratbat. Obviously, that is not Ratbat. No, that is Mindwipe. And not only is it Mindwipe, it's a third-party Mindwipe. It's the Fan Toys Dracula. That's such a huge mistake. It's such a huge mistake because it's so far off from Ratbat. Like, they're just both bat transformers, but that's literally it. That's literally it. And I tried Googling different word combinations that someone completely uninitiated might actually put in, trying to find like that one bat cassette rather that Soundwave had back in the G1 cartoon. I could not replicate a Google search that would bring up a third-party Mindwipe instead of Ratbat. It's absurd. It's incredibly absurd. I'm really wondering if someone in the video department is not going to get in trouble for that, because that's a huge mistake to make, to put an unofficial product in the production of an official licensed Hasbro product, a very high-end one at that. Oh, but it's let's go for round two. Because that's not an official Ravage. That's the Ocular Max Jaguar. That's the full-size cassette. It's at this point where I start thinking back to like how they treat this and like how they try to make themselves out like they are huge Transformer fans, like putting a lot of love into these designs to bring out like the original characters, when in reality they are a robot company that is cashing in on a popular robot franchise. Little things like things like how weird Grimlock's lines are, because some of them sound like G1 Grimlock, but a lot of them don't. A lot of them have like the verbiage is way too good in some of those lines. It's things he would not say. And things like in this video, where they constantly call Soundwave a tape player. He's not a tape player. He's a cassette recorder. There's a difference. He's a tape recorder, not a cassette player. Either or. It's just one of those things that make you realize like they're not paying attention, because like an official source would never get that wrong. But I digress. It's just a funny thing to observe. Everyone's observed it. Let's go into nitty-gritty here. See if we can't get this video wrapped up here soon. So, there's everything that you are getting, and you get the instruction booklet. He has his gun accessory, which is good to see. He's getting like a Soundwave style token, and as well as like what looks like an acrylic or die-cast piece of his cassette mode, and then of course charge cable, etc. But everyone should have a USB 3, USB-C charge cable at this point somewhere. If we look down at the brass tacks and get actual information here, 14.3 inches in height, pretty good size, 10 inches wide. Cassette mode, or cassette recorder mode, 9.8 inches wide. This is like the closest we've seen to the backside of the cassette recorder, and it's literally just his hand. It's just literally just his arms hiding behind there. No attempt to transform them whatsoever. Of course, we don't expect it on this design. The big box in the top right, that is the big foam box that you get. If you've never gotten a Robosen toy before, they come in these huge foam storage cases. And I don't mean like soft styrofoam that you just like rip apart with your bare hands. No, this is super dense industrial grade foam casing in order to safely travel with these toys. Exceptionally sturdy. Exceptionally sturdy. There's the coin. If you just want a little coin for Soundwave's head. Yeah, I know some people might. They do a lot of collector coins amongst like Masterpiece and pieces like this. So there's definitely people who are collecting the coins out there, I'm sure. I wanted to show you just like one mid-transformation shot too. And this basically shows you like the amount of how he transforms. To me, the most impressive part of the transformation is literally just like the front lower panels of the cassette mode, like folding away into his pelvis. And that's basically it. That's basically the only thing. The legs are basically the same way that Megatron and Optimus Prime transform, same, like complete with the same body posture of how it raises up. And beyond that, like it's pretty cut and dry. You can tell even from one shot, there's nothing particularly impressive about how he transforms. It's kind of a shame, but again, we have electronics to compensate for that. They did get Frank Welker for the character, so it's along with over 200 original lines. I will give you 200 plus. That makes sense to do. 48 plus voice commands. Why would you do a very specific number and then say plus as if there are more than that? Why would you be specific and non-specific at the same time? Just like say 40 and more, 40 or 45 up, like say that. But it's nice that they actually got Frank. And in the video, yes, he does sound very much like Soundwave still. Frank can still Frank. He definitely sounds a little bit older, but he can still go. He can still do what Frank's always done. So very cool to hear Soundwave again. And in contrast to like how Grimlock was, all the lines here pretty much sound correct. They basically sound like Soundwave. Things that he would say. If we look into the technical details, we've got 84 different microchips, 28 servo motors, and 6-axis IMU. I'm gonna say 28 servo motors is lower than previous Robosens. I want to say like Grimlock had a lot more than that. Hang on. I should have looked this up earlier, but didn't think of it. See if I can, yeah, let's see, yeah, so like Grimlock had 34. So there is your example of like how complex this Soundwave is. Let's see, what do we have beyond that? We're pretty much just rolling through the last of it. So this is all programmable, just like the other Robosens. You can do it on your phone, you can do it on the PC app. When it says block-based, if you've ever done like Lego Powered Up, where like you're just like sliding blocks that do all the different commands on your screen, it's kind of like that. So it's very like easy to understand and easy to visualize programming, though it does look like there's a little bit more intensive version if you want like very specific stuff. And yeah, they try to keep it easy, but for the most part, it is. I've seen people do some really weird things with them. Let's put it that way. And all of this can be yours for the low asking price of $1,400. Or if you order it, soon, you get it for like a flat $1,000, which is still a lot of money to sink. Like I said, this is the toy line for the whales of the community, or just the people who really want that super cool, like show-off piece of their favorite Transformer character, which is why Grimlock, Optimus, Bumblebee, Megatron, and Soundwave are all great picks for this line. Because, yeah, these are all characters that people would have individual collections of. Like, collectors of just Grimlock, just Soundwave, are absolutely a thing. Absolutely a thing. So, yeah, this more or less for them. Just so, like, those dedicated character collectors can have, like, one centerpiece to show off to their friends. Like, look how cool this is. Look at it do this thing. Which is what it is. That said, I'm not going to lie. Like, it's a pretty robust collection at the moment. Considering they only do, like, one of these a year. Yeah, these have been pretty impressive. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to take, like, it's not for me, but I'm not going to take away from the prowess and the engineering here. And having all 5 together, like, they showed a little bit of that in the demo video. It is incredibly cool to see all of them going at it at the same time. All of them, basically autonomous. And I can just imagine, like, how chaotic some of the scenes are going to be once someone has all of them. I'm waiting to see what it looks like when someone has all 5 and tells all 5 of them to transform at the same time. That will be nuts. But that day will be a ways off. I don't think Soundwave is shipping until April. So, there you go. We've got another one on the way. And honestly, like, this is probably visually the best one so far. Maybe electronically it's not as impressive, unless you're really into the Bluetooth functionality. Beyond that, I don't know. Form-wise, I think Grimlock is still the most, impressive one mechanically. But this one is for you guys to decide. So, let me know in the comment section below if this is one of those, like, big pieces that you absolutely have to have, or if it's just a pretty thing to look at. For me, it's a pretty thing to look at, but who knows? I'm actually curious how many, like, big spenders I have in my community. So, I will leave it at that. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.
Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.